It was the day before Thanksgiving, November 24th, 1971. A nondescript customer approached the flight counter of Northwest Orient Airlines at Portland International Airport. The man purchased a one-way ticket with cash to Seattle on Flight 305, a short 30-minute trip. The ticket listed his name as Dan Cooper, later to become known as D.B. Cooper due to a typographical error on the part of a reporter. Cooper was described by witnesses as a white male in his mid-40s with dark hair, brown eyes. He was wearing a dark business suit, a white dress shirt, a thin black tie, a black raincoat, and dress shoes. Mr. Cooper was carrying a briefcase and a paper bag. Cooper boarded the Boeing 727, took seat 18E located in the very back of the airplane, and ordered an adult beverage. Flying commercially in 1971 was a very different experience from today. His one-way ticket from Portland to Seattle cost him $20. Smoking on board? It was fine. And in those days, the airline pampered their passengers by offering drinks before takeoff. Cooper asked for a bourbon and 7-Up. With the crew of 6 and 37 passengers aboard, Flight 305 left Portland on schedule at 2:50 p.m. Shortly after takeoff, Cooper handed a note to flight attendant Florence Schaffner. She was sitting in the jump seat directly behind Cooper. Assuming the note was a lonely businessman's phone number, Schaffner dropped the note unopened into her purse. Cooper then leaned towards her and whispered, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." The hijacker demanded $200,000 in ransom. In today's money, that's almost $1.5 million. He also requested 4 parachutes upon landing in Seattle. Tina Mucklow was a brand new flight attendant and was directed by the hijacker to take a seat next to him. From that moment on, she was his liaison with the flight deck, relaying messages back and forth between Cooper and the cockpit. I was there for the hijacker to kind of keep him feeling safe, reassured, comfortable, and not detonating that bomb, she said in an interview. Cooper opened the briefcase and the flight attendant saw 2 rows of 4 red cylinders she assumed were dynamite. Attached to the presumed dynamite were wires and a battery. At approximately 5:24, Captain Scott was notified that the parachutes had been delivered to the airport and informed Cooper that they would be landing soon. None of the passengers were aware of the situation. At 5:46 p.m., Flight 305 touched down at Seattle-Tacoma Airport. As per Cooper's instructions, Flight Attendant Mucklow exited the aircraft through the front door, retrieved the ransom money, and returned, carrying the money bag past the seated passengers to Cooper, who were still seated in the very last row. Cooper then agreed to release the passengers. After releasing the passengers in Seattle, the hijacker instructed the flight crew to refuel the aircraft and begin a second flight to Mexico City with a refueling stop in Reno, Nevada. Around 7:40 p.m., Flight 305 took off again, with only Cooper and the flight crew on board. The hijacker told the pilots to leave the flaps in the lowest position and the landing gear deployed, obviously in an effort to slow the large jet. A 727 must maintain a minimum airspeed of 100 knots, or about 115 miles per hour, to avoid stalling. Air Force fighter jets from McChord Air Force Base were scrambled to follow the 727. All 3 jets maintain S flight patterns to stay behind the slow-moving 727 and out of Cooper's view. The entire flight crew of 6 were eventually directed by the hijacker to enter the cockpit and close the curtain. Tina peeked through the curtain to see the hijacker cutting the rope from one of the parachutes and using it to secure the large money bag to his waist. About 30 minutes after taking off from Seattle, around 8 p.m., a cockpit warning light flashed, indicating that the aft staircase had been activated. The pilot used the cabin intercom to ask Cooper if he needed assistance, but Cooper's last message was a one-word reply: no. Suddenly, the crew's ears popped The cabin air pressure had dropped because of the aft door being opened. The hijacker had opened the aircraft aft door, deployed the staircase, and parachuted into the night over southwestern Washington with the bomb, the money, and most of his belongings, leaving behind his tie and about a dozen cigarette butts. At 11:02, with the aft staircase still deployed, Flight 305 landed at Reno Tahoe International Airport. FBI agents, state troopers, sheriff's deputies, and Reno police established a perimeter around the aircraft, but fearing the hijacker and the bomb were still on board, did not approach the plane. Captain Scott searched the cabin and confirmed that Cooper was no longer on board. After a 30-minute search, the FBI bomb squad declared the cabin safe. Authorities launched one of the most extensive manhunts in U.S. history, searching the wilderness of Washington, Oregon, and British Columbia, but no trace of Cooper was found. Several pieces of evidence surfaced as well, probably most significantly a portion of the ransom money. In February of 1980, while raking along the Columbia River bank in Washington state, 8-year-old Brian Ingram unearthed the biggest clue to date. He found 3 packets, bundled by rubber bands, buried just beneath the top surface of the sandy shore. The packets contained $5,800 in badly decomposed $20 bills. The serial numbers, which were still readable, matched serial numbers of the ransom money. Young Brian Ingram had discovered a small slice of a ransom from one of the most daring heists in history. In 2017, some children found a parachute while playing outside their home near Amboy, Washington. The discovery became a huge news story, with speculation that it must be D.B. Cooper's. However, a month later, it was confirmed that it could not have been the hijacker's parachute, as it was the wrong material and design. By late 2007, the FBI had built a partial DNA profile from samples found on Cooper's tie in 2001. However, the FBI acknowledged no evidence linked Cooper to the source of the DNA sample, and no new information was acquired. It's been more than 50 years since D.B. Cooper's daringly successful hijacking and robbery. After thousands of hours of law enforcement investigation, sifting through all the available evidence, they still have no solid leads on D.B. Cooper's identity or location. The mystery of D.B. Cooper has inspired books, movies, and documentaries, and it remains an unsolved case that continues to fascinate people worldwide. The general consensus among investigators is that Cooper likely did not survive his jump, that Cooper most likely ended up landing in the freezing Columbia River or one of the other large bodies of water which were surrounded by the forest, below the flight path of the Northwest Orient 727. The reasons for this consensus are many. First, his body was weighed down with an additional 25 pounds of $20 bills. Investigators wonder why he would not have asked for $50 or $100 bills and it would have been 5 pounds instead of 25. The parachute Cooper used was a type that could not be steered. His clothing and footwear were unsuitable for a rough landing, and he had to jump into a thickly wooded area surrounded by large bodies of water on a very cold night. A dangerous proposition for a seasoned pro, which evidence suggests Cooper was not. Not to mention the fact that the only bills with matching serial numbers to the stolen money ever found were the rotten bills on the bank of the nearby river. What do you think? Was D.B. Cooper a mastermind criminal who pulled off one of the most daring and perfect crimes of all time? Or was his brazen plot poorly planned? Leave a comment below. Be sure to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell so you won't miss an episode of Mysteries, Legends, and Lies.